What I loved most about, I think, the early episodes is it really is kind of a love letter to Marvel fans. There's so many little Easter eggs and references. I'm curious, going into it, where was your sort of level of Marvel fandom? And once you got the role, were you like, oh shoot, I have like 50 movies I have to watch? Did you do a deep dive before you started filming?
I did a deep, I mean, I'm like, I definitely needed to do my research. I did a lot of reading of the comics initially because that felt like the best into just specifically She-Hulk. But then, yeah, I went back and watched the movies, and I watched especially the ones with Mark in them and the original Hulks and all of that. Yeah, it was fun to like get to pull from all of that. And because there's so many references, you have to kind of be on top of who's coming next.
Did Mark give you any specific sort of guidance or prep about like, you're about to enter into a world that people care very deeply about? Did he sort of warn you about what was about to come and sort of how to deal with the fandom?
He didn't, but he, I think just by example, I've seen, you know, how an actor like him who I see us as very similar people in the sense that we're private and have done like, you know, we haven't done these big franchise things before. But seeing him do that, you know, 10 years ago and watching how he maintains like the integrity of his artistry and all of it and like really makes it about character made me feel like, oh, that's possible and that's like what I want to do, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and something that's so fun about the show too is that it gets very meta, obviously, with you sort of talking to the camera, these very specific references. Like I'm thinking about when you say, you know, having Wong on an episode is like giving the show Twitter armor for a week, right? Which is so funny. How fun was it though to sort of wink at the audience and say like, we're ready for you?
It's exactly that. It's the best. It's because it's so meta. And it's already started to happen. Like even with the trailer coming out, people have certain, you know, opinions about it and have like, you know, there's big threads on Reddit or whatever that I'm hearing about.
Did you look at those?
I did not, but I've been informed.
Okay. I would, probably
you're like,
for the best.
I would not do it. But I think, you know, our show, Jessica Gao wrote a show that knew what was going to happen and that exists in this moment in our culture and is saying things about what's happening right now. And when those things start happening in response to the show, the meta is like, it's unbelievable.
Well, and also like, what can you say?
Exactly,
right? It's almost like you said, you're like a step ahead. It's like, oh, whatever you're going to say, we've already kind of said it. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, one of the fun things about the show is that it really does feel like a love letter to Marvel fans in so many ways, where there's like so many sort of in-jokes and meta things and phrases and whatever. I'm curious, going into it, what sort of was your level of Marvel fandom? And then once you found out you got the part where you're like, oh shoot, I have like 50 movies I should probably watch.
Well, I was lucky in that I have seen all of the movies in the theater. So
there we go.
Yeah, so as an actor, it's a fun thing to do, to be like, oh, what's possible and what, you know, what's a cool big budget fancy thing with magical stuff in it. So I knew the films. I'm obsessed with Black Panther. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but I hadn't read many of the comic books. So Josh Segarra and I started hoarding them off of eBay.
Really?
Vintage She-Hulk comics. Yeah. But there's still, you know, I'm lucky in that I play an original character, so I didn't have the pressure of like, let me read everything and make sure I don't F up this character, you know, because I'm brand new. So I had a lot of freedom.